G'day, legend. Welcome to the Noob Spearo podcast. If you are watching the Noob Spearo podcast on YouTube, you're going to see my smiling face sitting here in the studio. A bit of my son's artwork in the background, and you'll get to see who we're talking about today. It's Alex Smyth, pictured with Daniel Mann there, I think at the recent Nationals comp. It was pretty cool, those two getting to meet. We're going to chat with Alex in just a sec. Some of the topics today are pretty awesome. It's a massive chat about the importance of introducing young people into nature and into the wild and outdoor-based activities and what it can do for confidence and just broadening your perspective and giving you a set of skills that you wouldn't otherwise have. I reckon spearfishing is perfect for that. But just a broader outdoor-based sort of education and initiation into the natural world, I think it's pretty powerful. And couple of other topics we talk about. We get into the anxiety and depression and sort of managing that and how having a good, healthy lifestyle, outdoor-based lifestyle really plays into overcoming some of this stuff. And, you know, life throws us all sorts of stuff. I think spearfishing is also a great vehicle for that, and particularly the social side in and around spearing as well. Getting out with a bunch of good mates that can call you out on your BS is really good stuff. And this has kind of been on topic recently a lot on the podcast, and it's something that's important to me, so it's cool to talk about it a bit more. Anyway, Donna come and did a spearfishing course with me recently. She says 5 stars. What an epic weekend I had at the beginner spearfishing course. Super supportive, fun, and friendly environment to learn new skills and knowledge with plenty of laughs and good vibes. A sweet balance of freediving spearfishing was taught across the weekend, combining the two to become a confident, safe Spearo. Big thanks to Shrek for going above and beyond to give me the most memorable experience and equipping me with the foundation I need to head into the Spearfisher Woman adventure. Highly recommend the spearfishing course. If you're still on the fence, get it. Shrek is an all-round legend. Well, it's a super kind review. If Donna's listening, I'm going to be up in Cairns the back end of this month doing an interview live at Spearfishing Superstore. Come and join me if you can. It's going to be a cool time. Donna lives up in that part of the world, and I'll tell you what, the spearing up there is pretty amazing. Guys, I'm not going to muck around too much today. I didn't have a rant to put in the podcast this week. If you have one, please go to noobspearo.com, head up into the menu, give back, and leave me a voice message up to 3 minutes. I'm not going to muck around. Let's get into this interview with Alex Smyth. Here we go.
A couple of months ago, I was looking for a marine-grade epoxy for the timber spear gun I was building. Thankfully, Shrek pointed me in the direction of Neptonics. Not only was their speargun epoxy kit easy to apply, it is also some of the best epoxy I've ever used. Perfect for a noob gun builder such as myself. With free shipping to the lower 48 on orders over $199 and the ability to save 10% with our code NOOB10, if you're US based, there's no excuse. Head on over to Neptonics' online store and get yourself some tough gear that lasts. Hoorah and God bless America.
Shop with the world's largest dive store, Adreno. Live it and breathe it with frothers just like you, in-store or online at adreno.com.au. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code Noob Spearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom! Arriving on day one of the spearfishing trip of a lifetime and feeling underdone, unfit, and out of breath is incredibly underwhelming. Well, I've got a great solution for you today. Go to noobspearo.com/spearready and take part in a 50-day preparation program to get you into shape to make the most of a trip of a lifetime. This is a 50-day journey designed to get you in great shape to make the most of this trip. I consulted a bunch of legends to help me put together this program, including Adam Stern, Australian freediving legend, Jared Rosenberg from Earth and Ocean Fit, and Dr. Jaap Verbaas, author of Longer and Deeper, as well as a bunch of others to help me put together a 50-day program that will get you results. And I know it works. We've put a bunch of groups through this now, and people have seen huge improvements and landed on a charter or a trip and actually been able to tap into some of their best spearfishing fitness. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. Jump in a 50-day program to make the most. If you are 2 months out from that trip of a lifetime, let me encourage you, get spear ready. Go to noobspearo.com/spear ready. All right, g'day legends. We have a bit of a the privilege of being joined by someone who actually works on the Noob Spearo, running the social media at the moment. It's Alex Smyth, fresh out of the UK, Cambridge. He's a legend. We're going to chat about a whole bunch of interesting topics today. Alex, it's really cool to, I guess, chat with you for a longer form convo. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice. Cheers, Shrek. It's great to be here. Been listening to the show for a very long time, so it's awesome to be on and not just behind the Instagram.
Yeah. Tell people about running the Noob Spearo Instagram. What's involved? What's the horror story like?
Well, what I will say is if you've DM'd the Noob Spearo Instagram over like the last 4 months, you've probably been talking to me. I do make an effort to sign off with Noob Spearo team on a long message, but then usually I don't bother with the shorter ones. But it's a lot of reposting really awesome content that's been actually I've been able to see and sort of advance my learning because I'm in Cambridge, which is about as far as you can get from any diving country in the UK.
Yeah.
So most of my training or learning has all been online or static breath holds or, that sort of thing. I haven't been able to do much practical this year.
How old are you, Alex?
18.
18. So you're 18, you live in Cambridge. What
Yes.
gave you this bug for the sparing life?
Well, I say I live in Cambridge. I'm living in Cambridge. I'm actually on a gap year. So yeah. I've just been here for this year. I started out spearfishing. I would have been 12. Is in like year 7, Sydney, just started high school. One of my mates had a hand spear. Okay. And we went out one day with a hand spear, got a cuttlefish, actually, I remember quite clearly.
Oh, sick.
I was like, that looks awesome. I want to do that. And so I started with a 2 meter, I think, fiberglass hand spear from Ocean Hunter. That I did not catch a lot of fish for about 4 years on that thing, but it got me hooked. And then over the last 2 years, I've sort of taken it a lot more seriously.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So 6 months ago, like we were chatting quite a bit, and then you were traveling down to a competition in, was it Devon or Cornwall? I can't remember.
Well, the first comp I did was the British national comp. So there's 3 national comps in sort of the 3 main diving areas in England, but by the time I was sort of got my stuff together, 2 of them already passed. So there's just the Cornwall one, which is about as far as you can get from Cambridge. Well, yeah, it's pretty much you can either go far north or far south, and that's about as far as you can drive and still be in England from Cambridge. So that was a trek. That was my second time diving in the UK. I was like, right, I'm going to go into a national comp, which was an ambitious goal on my part. But well, you put me in contact with the Spearo Hangout boys. They were awesome. Richard,
great podcast too.
Yeah, they took good care of me. But the most memorable part of that actually was I got public transport down.
Yeah,
it was like 7-8 hours in public transport with a gun bag and a hiking pack. That was rough. Luckily, I'm just a bag of bones, so I don't need a lot of lead. That saved a bit of weight. But I was walking to the comp from my campsite. I was like maybe 2-3 kilometers on the day, walking through the mud on this like country road with like a weight belt slung over my pack and a gun bag under my arm. And then Daniel Mann just drove up next to me and said, "Oh, you're going to the comp," which was awesome. I was like, Daniel Mann is one of my big inspirations and idols in spearfishing. Yeah. Just to have him just rock up and offer me a lift and immediately be a super friendly guy.
Was he the same? Was he the same in person as he was in his videos?
No, but not in a bad way. It's he has a very almost Australian sort of quite gnarly sense of humor.
Yes,
that doesn't really come across in his videos. It sort of took me by surprise. But
he's quite pessimistic at times too, I reckon.
But he can be.
I like it. But you're right. He's got that. It's very Australian, but it's a It's a weird blend of the UK Australian culture, I reckon. It has.
Yeah.
And you'd relate to that, sort of being a bicultural type person yourself.
Yeah, or tricultural, actually.
Okay, what's your other one?
English, French, and Australian.
Oh, wow. How does the French tie into it?
It's a complicated story. When people ask where you're from, I can't give them a one sentence. Well, it's a long answer. So I'm born in Spain. My mum's French. My dad's English. I grew up in England. Then we moved to Australia. And I've also been going back to France as often as we can.
The Atlantic side of France or the Mediterranean side?
Brittany. So it's, well, you would kind of call it the Atlantic, but it's it's sort of in between, just the edge of sort of like the English Channel and the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Because it is really northwest, and my family is more on the north side.
Okay.
But that's a beautiful part of the world. Best beaches in France, in my opinion. It's just a shame it's always too cold to swim at them.
Yeah, right. Black sand though, like.
No, like white sand.
Oh wow!
Like that's my French grandma always says it looks like the Caribbean. It doesn't, but it's they're nice beaches nonetheless.
Yeah, cool. Oh wow, that does give you a unique perspective on the world. Like, you know, so when you experience a culture outside your own, it does give you more context for understanding the world and relating to people from different parts of it. So that's pretty cool. So you're walking down this mud road. You're going to the national championships, the third leg of the English sort of national spearfishing calendar. Daniel Mann picks you up in the car. You're meeting one of your stars in person, and he's different, which is pretty cool. What did the rest of the day look like? Walk me through it.
Well, obviously I was quite nervous. First comp. Second time diving in the UK. I'd never shellfished in the UK. And one thing that was immediately clear to me is that all the best divers in the UK use boat floats. So what you see in Daniel Mann's video, there's big floats, you often get on them because it's all swim comps. So you're swimming a long way. And that's actually a lot easier on a boat float. I didn't know this at the time, though. So I just had a torpedo float, which... I mean, one of the first pieces of advice I got was, you're going to need a bigger float, mate.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. But, the people were super friendly. All the divers were, like, more than willing to give little bits of advice. Obviously, at the start of a comp, no one says what their plan is. After the comp, everyone discloses everything pretty much.
Yeah.
But before, everyone's a bit, keeping it to themselves a bit. But I don't know if you know Dave O'Callaghan.
No, I've heard the name.
No, yeah, he's awesome guy. He could tell I was a bit nervous. I reckon he came up to, he's like, yeah, hey, first comp. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, just take it slow and you'll be around. And that just, those words from a very experienced diver from like Dave O, that really helped to sort of ease me out. And it was. And then I performed terribly. It was.
What were the conditions like there?
It was, well, for the UK, not too bad. I think 4 or 5 meters viz, which, obviously when I lived in Sydney, I'd be like, right, there's no way I'm getting in. But now it's 4 or 5 meters. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Man, I still love 4 or 5 meters. I reckon that's hunting viz. If you get like 3 meters or less, I'm starting to be like, this is a bit shit, because you don't even have time to react.
I did one the other week that we literally couldn't see our fins.
Yeah.
And that was tricky.
But
the nationals, I swam around for an hour, didn't see anything, got seasick, swam back into shore, was sick, drank a bit of water, swam back out, speared for a couple hours, shot one wrasse that wasn't in for the comp's limits, and then finished it there because I lost my dive knife, actually.
Oh, no.
Now I dive with 2 knives.
Okay, far out. Rugged. That's, but like, I honestly think that like the measure of a Spearo isn't like how many fish you spear or how deep you dive. It's more like, can you maintain the froth through adversity? And I feel like when you're diving in cold, dirty water and the froth is still there and you're like willing to head out the next day, that is what makes you a Spearo. Do you relate to that?
Oh yeah, well that's what I always say. I think you've said it on this podcast that you've never heard anyone claim that British Spearos are the best in the world, and I definitely agree with that. But what I will say, to spear in the UK, you need to love spearing. Like there's a lot of people in Australia, they just spear like once or twice a year. They just own a spear and they go out. You can't do that because you're too miserable for most of the time. You have to love it.
Yeah.
And so everyone that, particularly at these comps, but that's usually getting comps. But
that's sick.
Generally, if you're in the sport, you're probably into it.
So it's almost like a weird little cult, isn't it? Like, because there's like these people that froth out on it so hard, they're all eccentric. And then like you're kind of in this nervous crowd of people that are all as weird as you are, which should be a cool feeling, I reckon.
Yeah. And all wearing cassettes.
Yeah.
In the UK.
Which makes you even more weird. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you wear a 5mm and you're like, your piss is trapped in your suit for the duration of a 6-hour dive in cold water, you would smell terrible. Like, when you're in Australia.
And also I've been getting, I don't know what the cause of this is because I do have a cassette, but I've been getting the worst rashes I've ever had on my arms. After like 4 hours in a wetsuit, maybe it's a reaction to the slippy that I'm using, or
unlikely. That stuff's like fairly like.
That's what I thought. But, because it's in the spots where there's like not a lot of circulation.
I have actually saved some research somewhere that like this is a hot topic in our little weird community, like the different rashes you get from neoprene. Like, I'll have to look up some more research and show you later, but. Yeah, it's something that is talked about. Like some people, I think once you have it, you kind of like you're in another little subgenre of people that have had weird skin conditions as a result of wearing wetsuits for long periods of time and pissing in them. But cool. You've highlighted a number of interesting topics. I think one of them is traveling with spearing gear on a budget as a young person. You've done it on public transports for long distances. What have you learned?
You need to be organized with your backing. That's obvious. The other one is you're not allowed to stress out, because I have a history of anxiety from starting when I was quite young. That got really bad towards the end of high school. This year, it's kind of been fixed. And I think it's because I've been consistently pushing myself outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's like, in your day-to-day life, you can get stressed out, but you can also just look back and go, oh, I don't have 10 kilos of spearfishing gear on a shitty English train going south. It could be could be a lot worse.
So it helps you sort of reframe anxiety. Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I've talked a bit about this before, like getting out of your comfort zone to overcome anxiety. So you've given one tangible example there. Like, give me another one. You can.
Yeah, well, one of the things I did this year that wasn't spearfishing related was I did a month course learning Spanish in Spain.
Yeah. Which part of Spain?
Which was Granada, so Andalusia, which is supposed to be one of the good spearfishing spots, but apparently getting a license in Spain is not easy.
So you're in the southwestern corner, or is that? I don't know where you are.
Well, I was in the south. Andalusia sort of goes from southwest to sort of central south.
Okay.
But that course was really great. But I was there in a sort of period where most students had sort of gone back home, the ones that would normally do this on their holidays or whatever. And so it was like my first 2 weeks of courses, it was like me, a 60-year-old Chinese woman, and another 30-year-old woman from Hong Kong. That was the only people in the school that can hold like 200 people.
Wow. Your production opportunities with other people learning Spanish would have been limited.
It was limited, yeah. So I sort of had to find a way to meet people and learn Spanish by going outside of the school. One thing that I found is that often I know they have this in Granada, I imagine they have in other parts of Spain called intercambio de idioma. Which is a language exchange. So often just at a pub, you'll have a bunch of people who speak different languages, just rock up every day, every week or second week. and just meet purely to speak languages. And so that was a nice bridging point, actually, because there was people there that spoke English.
Yeah.
Not the best English, but I could actually go somewhere where someone spoke English.
So you speak like half an hour in English with them and then half an hour in Spanish? Maybe?
Yeah, well, I'd actually switch between. That was a real test on my brain, because I was switching between English, French, and Spanish.
Nice.
Pretty consistently over that month. And what I found is I can swap pretty easily between two languages, but swapping between three quickly, it doesn't work.
Yeah, nice.
Really, really hard.
So are you proper bilingual, like French and English pretty easily?
French and English fluently, both, yeah.
Yeah. So it's still reaching, and when you start to understand another language, you start to understand your own a lot better as well. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You need to walk the Camino, I think. That'd be the next.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm leaving Europe pretty soon, so but I'll have to come back to do so. I haven't done a lot of hiking this year.
Well, you get a chance to speak all three languages, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I would.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's another great jumping off point for getting out of your comfort zone. With spearfishing, so you grew up, you started in Sydney with a hand spear, you saw a cuttlefish get speared, you sort of made the best of it for 4 years, then you've gone to the UK, tried to carry it on there. Walk me through universal things that you've learned when you're spearing in either context. What have you learned? In
either context, the best thing you can do for yourself as when you're starting out spearfishing, I've found, this applies wherever you are in the world, is join a club or find some other way of having some experienced mentor or mentors. Because I didn't have that for all the time I was spearfishing in Australia. I joined a club just because I didn't know anyone in the UK. And that was the best decision I could have made. I've done 2 comps, and I've learned more on those 2 comp days than I have probably in 5 years of spearfishing before that. Yep. Just because I never had anyone, don't come from an outdoorsy family. So I've never had anyone who could sort of teach me how to do it.
Yep.
And so that was my first time actually having a mentor. Particularly if you join pair comps, just local club pair comps.
Yep.
People are often very willing to take you on board, and you learn a lot from comp divers, which is awesome. Yep. Everything else doesn't translate very well between Australia and the UK. Even in this, how the fish act, because actually I found the rock structures in Cornwall are very similar to Sydney. A lot of sandstone that you get really interesting structures in caves. But here the viz is dirty, usually cold. You get used to diving below 16 pretty quick. The fish are also much more wary, I found. Even though they can't see you until a bit later, so they come in closer. The techniques they use here are much more ambush-based, whereas in the UK, but in Australia, people are often just getting a big gun and chasing a fish and shooting it just powering through it with a big gun, big fins, and a surf wetsuit a lot of the time. Whereas here, you really need to put more effort into being very technical and with your gear, with your diving, and all that. And
cool.
There's the differences that I've noticed.
With those guys on the swim off comp, they're on these banks board, sort of the ones where you lay in, it allows you to sort of traverse long stretches of water relatively easy. It's still pedal power with your fins, but it changes your posture. It sort of gets you swimming along quite quickly, and it's fairly efficient, so you can cover fairly long distances quite quickly. Are the guys using electronics, particularly sonar to sound the bottom, or do they have marks programmed into their GPS? Are they scouting the ground beforehand?
Yeah, so for this comp, you weren't allowed to scout in the week leading up to it.
How do they control that though? Do they just tell you the comp location?
Oh, that's probably just they're just trusting people not to do it. I'll be honest.
Okay. So
but it's a very small sport in the UK, so you can trust people not to do it. But most people diving have dived it before in like the past years.
okay.
And so now I don't even know if it's possible to strap a sounder onto a float boat. Like, they're big, but they're not that big. But you are allowed GPSs at that comp. Don't know about other comps. I can't afford one, so I didn't have one. But I know a lot of the big guys. I think they had GPS. I could be wrong because I can't remember the rules exactly. And besides that, dive computers here in the electronic that people are really using. You're also meant to have a compass on your flight. Just any diver has to have a compass on their flight.
Okay, cool. I'm just thinking like competitive advantage, like electronics have changed the game in spearing. If you know how to, like if you're on a boat and you know how to read sonar and position the boat correctly according to the GPS, and you know, and you understand avionics and some of the other chart info, like you can really dial in. Even just scouting, like for an hour using avionics, you can really get a good understanding of where some likely points are going to be, and then like it's, you know, there's relief shading and all these other things that you can do, and then if you've got like a GPS watch, you can program in and you can prepare a course in advance. Like these things are massive advantages over someone that's just swimming off with a torpedo float.
Yeah, it probably is. I think also 20 plus years of diving is also pretty good advantage that
Definitely.
Those guys have anyway. But yeah, they as I understand it, it's because in the world comps you're allowed a GPS. They try to run the national comps in a similar format. Obviously, the big difference is that this is a swim comp and Worlds is a boat comp usually. But they as I understand it, they try to make it so that it's almost as if they're training the team for the next Worlds.
Cool. So when are you headed back down under?
Well, I leave England on November 18th, but I don't get back to Australia till the 10th of December because I'm going to Nepal in between. Well, last year I went to Nepal with my school did this awesome sort of graduating trip where they take the year 12s on a whitewater rafting trip in Nepal, which was awesome. I just completely fell in love with the country. And so now I'm going back, this time to volunteer as an English teacher.
Nice.
And
in Kathmandu?
So that'll be fun. Not a lot of spearfishing up there.
No, none. But still a cool travel destination. Where are you going in Nepal? Are you staying in Kathmandu or are you going to, you got some ambitions?
I don't know where it is, I'll be honest. I don't know the geography of Nepal very well. I just know there's a school that I'm going to and I'm going to get the bus there and we'll figure it out as we go. There's
a really cool walk that I can hear. Like a lot of people do the base camp, the Everest base camp, but I've really heard good things about the Poon Hill.
I was going to do Poon Hill, but so I was going to do it with a friend of mine that I met when I did scouts as a kid. But then she was there for a nursing course, but then I think she got pulled out of that because they had the floods recently. And I mean, it would probably be fun to go now, but just because she's pulled out and then I don't have anyone to hike with, I'm not going to do that one solo.
Did you watch that Netflix doco? I think it's called 7 Peaks, or it might be something similar like that. It might be 10 Peaks, or I can't remember what it is.
I don't think I have, no.
It's a Nepalese guy. He serves in the British Army, I think, or he definitely serves, you know, as a Gurkha, like, you know, they're renowned soldiers. We're all over the world. He breaks the world record for, I think, just don't quote me here, but it's like the 7 highest peaks in the world in a given time frame. And they make a documentary about it. It's so wicked. Have you heard of it?
I think I might. The concept sounds familiar.
Yeah, really cool guy. Really good documentary.
Yeah.
Love it. Anyway, Nepal will be fun. So you talked about this. You touched on the school having a really cool graduate sort of program to really get you guys out doing something different. It's a Steiner school, yeah? You went to?
Yes, that's right.
Talk about it. Like why was that such a cool school?
Steiner's systems sort of focus big on like pushing the importance of nature and art to kids. I generally just call it a school that parents who wish they were hippies send their kids to, so that we grew up to be hippies. But they did have, this particular Steiner school had one of the best outdoor ed programs in the country. So we had an outdoor teacher who was a big whitewater kayaking, a big whitewater kayaker. And so we did sort of we did open water kayaking, like ocean kayaking, and whitewater canoeing, whitewater rafting, a bunch of hiking trips all over New South Wales, and just really awesome stuff that I think, well, to be honest, so some of them obviously are. The Steiner schools are usually private schools. Now they're not your typical private school structure, but they have the fees of a private school, which meant we were able to do some trips that a lot of schools can't do. But some of them just were literally just hikes just outside of Sydney. And what made them special was the fact that they were really pushing the kids on these hikes to be self-sufficient. You had to cook for yourself, to set up all your camp yourself. If you messed up, it was on you. You just sort of had to deal with it till the end of the camp. And that meant that, it made some tough kids, but it was, it really meant we learned to properly respect nature and also just generally be self-sufficient. It sounds like a bit cliche, I know, but it just, like, there's a lot of kids my age that can barely make 2-minute noodles.
Yes.
And we were making 3-course meals out there.
So it teaches you to be useful and autonomous. I guess it's building agency and all of these other cool words that are pretty wicked.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like what you would want in some sort of rite of passage type thing, like, really getting young people to become adults.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Particularly this Nepal trip, because that was like more than 2 weeks in a country. A lot of these guys hadn't left the country before.
Yeah.
And we were going straight to Nepal to go whitewater rafting. Most of us hadn't done whitewater rafting either.
Yeah.
And that was just properly fun. And just to see that different, because it also broadens your worldview, because there's a lot of kids that go to private schools and all they know is mother and father's estate and the silver spoon.
Yes.
Whereas this meant that, there was, some of these kids came from quite privileged backgrounds, but they were growing up with a very sort of much broader world view than they might otherwise have had.
Nice.
Which was just awesome.
It's good, that reality check too, when you like someone always said to me, like, you're just another beer bum in the shower. It's like there's a bit of humility, realizing like, this money and whatever, it doesn't really give me anything added. I'm just the same as everyone else. And, like it helps people to realize that, I've got to be useful as well. Like whingers are, treated with scorn and derision, as they should be. Which translates really well into the world of spearing, because showing up in comp or showing up on a boat, like, straight away, like, no one cares who your parents are or how much money you have. It's really how useful you are, how you contribute to the vibe of the trip. It doesn't really even matter too much about ability. It's just kind of how you interact with everyone and how useful you are as a crew member. So
and that translates language barriers as well. I found because I'm big into my photography, so I had a camera with me while I was in Nepal. Traveling with a camera, I found kind of really interesting, because everyone wants their picture taken. And there was one moment I was in where there was like a CAF 4 rapid that we had to walk, because obviously this was the first whitewater rafting trip, so we were not going down a CAF 4 rapid, but we walked sort of down these rocks to be able to view the rapids, but we could only stay there for a certain amount of time, because it's not safe to have a bunch of students just standing over some rapids that could quite easily kill you. And so all that we were told to sort of move on by our teachers, but then the guide said, no, camera, you stay, you watch us come down. And so I was while everyone else was going, I was just stood on this rock with the rapids raging right next to me, taking pictures of these of our guys bringing the rafts down.
Cool.
Which was awesome.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah. Isn't it weird how like everyone loves someone with a camera, but no one really likes asking for a photo either? They just sort of, want you to take them. But yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah, I don't know. They'll ask for it in in the ball. They definitely they'll ask for the picture.
Killshot spear guns have much more than just wicked, reliable, awesome timber spear guns. They've got merch, charters, more, and they service gear out in Isla Morada, the Florida Keys. Ed Martin is the passionate aficionado making some absolute works of art, simple, reliable timber spear guns that more than get the job done. I know when I shoot my spear gun, I'm looking for reliability. Ed Martin's got you covered at killshotspearguns.com. Check it out, killshotspearguns.com. This podcast is brought to you by aqualite.com.au. This is the best solution, bar none, for staying hydrated in the ocean. If you're a Spearo, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a game changer. If you're doing extended trips and the cramp starts to set in and the old body's telling you, hey, that's enough, just get hydrated and it will save you a whole heap of woe. Get Aqualite at aqualite.com.au. It's scientific rehydration that Spearos know and trust. I know because one works there, and that's why we've set up this discount code for you, 10% off when you use the code Noob Spearo at aqualite.com.au. Check it out. Australian-made hydration products tailored for Spearos and a whole bunch of other people that suffer from dehydration too. But check it out at aqualite.com.au. Use the code Noob Spearo to save 10%. Spear Ready is a 50-day training program designed to get you in shape to make the most of your spearfishing. It's a 50-day cross-training program designed to put you in shape and not feel like you don't have any breath hold when you arrive on your trip. If you can go spearfishing during the week during this program, you can even subtract something from the workout. I can guarantee that no other prep program is saying that. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spear ready. There are always frothers training and trying to prepare and get in shape. It's a great way to stay motivated and do it together with our private Facebook group. Check it out again, noobspearo.com/spear ready. Let's talk about anxiety and depression. You touched on some stuff earlier, like about anxiety. Like it's very, very common these days. Like so many people like living with these elevated levels of anxiety. I don't know what it is, man. Like, what do you think? Why are so many
Honestly,
of us
what I've sort of thought from quite a young age and what I've really felt is just a disconnection from nature. I mean, there's a term I use that some people don't like. I call people domesticated humans. And that's referring to the people that just completely, not just from nature, but just in the entire food process, where everything comes from. Their whole lives are just modern technology, their computer, their phone, their social media, and there's just no association with where it comes from. Yeah, which, having brought up with this outdoor ed program, I've still got that anxiety, and maybe that is because I spend several hours a day on social media. I'm sure that does terrible things to I'm sure my generation has probably been a lot of our problems probably just come from that stuff. But having that connection to the outdoors and being able to go back to that and sort of getting that reality check from the outdoors is something that I find really helps. And just like sometimes you just have to be real, honestly. And that's where a lot of the problems come from. I think just that disconnection with everything. Yeah,
that's interesting. So disconnection from nature sounds huge. I've heard another theory too about we're getting philosophical, but some people say like we're these tripart beings, like we have a mind, a body, and a soul or a spirit. And it's like in our Western society, we're like heavy mind dominated. And when you think about disconnection from nature, nature demands far more of us than just being connected with our minds. Like you can't sort of go camping in the wilderness for 7 days and just be in your head. It requires that you all of a sudden become grounded in, what's going on around you. I think spearfishing is a bit the same. It's like, if you're not present in the moment and you're off worrying about paying the bills or some interrelational conflict at work in your mind, like spearfishing kind of has this way of just grounding you right there in the present, in the moment, and in the sort of the natural world around you. And would you sort of see that as sort of also related to what you're saying, or do you have a different idea?
Yeah, absolutely. There's that reminds me of my another part of this outdoor ed program was it's called the Year 12 Solar Camp. And every Year 12 does this. They take you into the bush, middle of nowhere, drop you in the bush, say see you in 3 days.
That's 100%
and they just leave you.
That's 100% a rite of passage.
That's what I was. Yeah, you mentioned rite of passage. I don't know why it didn't come to mind, but and that. I mean, the changes from you think, oh, 3 days. I can sit on the couch for 3 days. 3 days in the outdoors feels like 3 years. Like if you're alone out there doing everything yourself. Oh my God, it was rough. You watch it like the TV show Alone afterwards. You're like, how did they do it?
Yeah.
I didn't even have to get my own food out there, But that's one of those that's genuinely, it's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I genuinely think every teenager should do, if not exactly that, but something very similar to that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're out there, you laugh, you cry, you go a bit insane. You feel all three of those states. There's the mental, the physical, the spiritual, whatever. You really feel just everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
I think too, part of the people that live inside, the domesticated humans, as you call them, that watch nature through a TV screen and listen to David Attenborough tell them what it is. I feel like sometimes people have this idea that nature is really loving and lovely. And then when you're actually out there, you're like, holy shit, this thing does not care about me. Nothing cares about me here. And it demands that, I actually need to understand this so that I can feed myself, shelter myself, build something. Imagine having children in that environment, where you're in the hostility of nature. Because we talk about the wonder of nature, and that's true too. But when you're sitting there all alone and you realize, stuff will eat me here, or I could die, it's different.
Yeah. No, and it's like that. It's similar to that feeling of some people get that feeling of insignificance compared to the size of the universe.
Yeah,
I've never understood that, because with nature and also with just the impossible vastness of the universe, if you will, just the fact that it doesn't care about me, and there's just massive strength and everything. For some reason, it's almost empowering. It's because this is part of that disconnection. It's it's all massive. It doesn't care about you, but you're also part of it.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not. Yeah, people forget humans, we're still animals. We're not. Yeah, we might have phones and clothes and frozen packaged meat, but we're still part of that system, whether we like it or not.
So it sounds like you've had, in some ways, a real. I'm struggling for the term, but it sounds like you've had a really good grounding and a practical education and a grounding in the natural world. Walk me through how spearfishing ties into all of this, and then
Well, it was a beginning of year 12 is when I really started to take spearfishing seriously, and it was really just the idea of sort of doing it, producing your own food, that really had me attached to it. It was
why?
Just, I don't know. I guess it's part of that sort of reconnection. And I talk about reconnection with nature, and some people are like, well, it's not. You're not really reconnecting. You're using a high-tech spear gun and a artificial neoprene wetsuit. But when it's really the sense of the hunt that and it's not necessarily hunting animals, also just foraging. You get the same thing, that it just satisfies this feeling that it just feels right. Honestly, I was talking to a vegan about this, and I think I almost changed my mind on hunting it, because I just said literally when hunting underwater, or even just freediving, being part of that natural world, it just forming that connection with it, that really feeling the where you fit in all of it, it just is. It's a feeling I can't really put into words. To be honest, it's more than comforting. It just, as I say, it just feels right.
Yeah. It's hard to put it into words. I think there's this famous quote by this guy, Ed Zern. He says, I don't regard nature as a spectator sport, and I always, that's always stuck with me, like, I think, people say, oh, it's a primal urge that you're satisfying, but there's more to it. It's almost like it transcends language in some ways. It's very satisfying on so many levels. So I understand what you're saying. Talk to me about skill acquisition. So, with spearfishing, there's so many different pathways of skills that we need to learn, like, learning to operate in limited visibility is one, like species identification. Like, talk me through something that is memorable for you in terms of from a learning point of view, and just try and teach everyone else how it is you learned what you know.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be more of a lesson in what not to do, to be honest. Because I've not done a freediving course, not done a spearfishing course. That's something I want to do as soon as I get back to Australia. I haven't done those, which is quite dangerous actually when you think about it. But I mean, I got into sort of freediving when I was like 10 or 11. I was at a friend's birthday party, and I just saw this kid. We were snorkeling, and I saw this kid sort of duck dive and go down like 3 meters. I thought, whoa, you can go underwater doing this?
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was just sort of, every time I was snorkeling, I was duck diving, going down, basically teaching myself how to free dive, which is not a good idea when you look back in hindsight, because I was doing it with no one who knew anything about what they were doing. But then later on, I sort of got into watching YouTube videos, spearfishing and free diving, all that stuff. And so a lot of what I've learned has been from either YouTube or trial and error. With hunting, definitely is trial and error. It's just seeing the fish run away and sort of slightly altering or trying to, going back to YouTube, usually seeing, right, what's going on here, get a tip from YouTube, try it out, doesn't work, try something else. And yeah, a lot of trial and error, because I've never had that mental, until this year when joining a club, I realized exactly how much I don't know about spearfishing in particular. And it's just stuff like how to optimize your spearfishing setup. I thought, well, I'll just slap some 16 mil bands on it and it'll be all right. There's a lot more going on that you actually kind of want to think about depending on what conditions you're hunting in, obviously. And all of that I had to learn. Most of that I had to learn from trial and error or from YouTube until I joined a club.
There's a few shortcuts there that you've touched on. One is like, and I didn't learn this till I was about 30, and that's finding a mentor. Like, my problem when I was your age and younger was, when teenagers start to realize that the adults around them have faults, they just turn off them completely. Like, oh, no, you have this shortcoming, so you're a dickhead and I'm not going to listen to anything you say. And like, I think a big part for me was about 30. I realized like, oh, yeah, this person is a bit of a dickhead in this way, but they have all of this other stuff that I can learn. So it's like a culture of honor. Like, you're like, you honor the good in that person, and you realize like, oh, we're all fallible, we're all human. And then the other thing was like, you don't have to learn everything the hard way. Like, if you surround yourself with other people that have done what you want to do, it's a great way to just learn stuff through the process of osmosis. It's not like you don't have to like learn how to, reinvent the wheel. You can just sort of like go, oh, okay, well, he's already done that. And you can kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely had a problem similar to that. I didn't get along when I was in high school. I didn't get along with a lot of my teachers because sort of as I got into my later teenage years, I was like, oh, these guys are just regular people, and some of them I don't like them very much. But then on this year, this gap year, really, because I'm very sort of pushing myself out of my comfort zone, I realized I don't even know how much I don't know. And so that's sort of made me really right. You're better off just listening to someone who has already made the mistake. And look, you got to take everything that everyone says with a grain of salt. I come from a sort of very scientifically thinking background, so I always pay attention to biases and to try to apply logic to everything, which can be a problem in itself. But yeah, I've really made an effort to listen to people with more experience than me, and also people with less experience than me sometimes.
Yeah.
I
don't write anyone off for the Spearing journey. Like, it's funny, like, you know, in the workplace, like, I've learned more from people that are really lazy than the people that are like really productive sometimes, because they've just found the shortest and fastest way to do a job, which sometimes works actually better. And Spearing's a bit the same, I think. Like, you can kind of, you know, look at elite athletes and go, oh, wow, he dived to 50 meters and he, you know, like, he spent 2.5 minutes there. Or you can be like, that bloke dived to 8 meters and he shot the same fish, you know. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like, you know, what are you measuring yourself by? You know, so that's cool. So traveling, diving with anxiety, depression. Let's talk a bit more about that. So you touched on anxiety before and how spearfishing reconnects ourselves with, you know, with ourselves and with the natural environment. What else have you learned about this and overcoming it? One thing that I've been reading about lately is like, you know, therapy, as it's sort of looked at, can actually be counterproductive with some of this stuff. Like, you know, that sort of dwelling on stuff and being too introspective, and that's actually really counterproductive for getting out of it. I mean, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, it's definitely true that dwelling on anything too much can often make the problem worse. And because I've done a fair bit of therapy over the years, and it can make it worse. But the main sort of virtue of therapy that I found is it can give you the tools to be self-sufficient. Because what I found when I was sort of in the worst parts of my sort of journey with anxiety and at times depression, I just didn't know how to help myself. And therapy meant that, well, I was already dwelling on it all the time because I was just in that headspace. So it was like, right, well, might as well, because we're here, turn face on and look at the problem face on rather than running from it. And that allowed me to actually form sort of methods of dealing with it myself, which is really important and really underrated. I think a lot of people think of therapy, they don't actually know what therapy is. They think you're just talking to some bloke.
Yeah.
Which is really not. It's a lot like, it's really like if you go see a physiotherapist for some ligament or muscle injury, it's like that for your brain.
Yeah.
You know, there's a problem and you're figuring out how to fix it.
Yeah. I went into it with the idea of like, I want a tangible aim and I want an outcome from this. And I think going into it with the idea of like, okay, teach me some tools to alleviate acute stuff, but then teach me some stuff about how to build and get out of some of these negative patterns of thinking and stuff like that. For me, that's what kind of worked. But it's very personality based too, though. Like you really need the right person.
Yeah, I had a mate who had similar problems to me, and he went through like 4 different therapists, and he said to the last one, if yet another person tries to teach me box breathing, I think I'm going to punch them, because it just wasn't working for him.
Yeah,
so he really had to work to find something different.
I think like some of the breathwork stuff is really good for acute anxiety and stress, like where you just need something like, okay, this is going to help me start the day with a heightened level of anxiety. Like that helped me personally. But like long term, you need like ways to just like get to the roots of some of these things rather than just dealing with the immediate symptoms. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it did actually, I think it might have helped with breath hold because it just, well, the kind of spearfishing and therapy kind of work together and just helping me learn how to calm down in general.
Give me an example.
What we're aiming for.
Give me an example.
Well, in breathing techniques, we'll go with that. One, they'll learn a bunch of different breathing techniques. Box breathing is one of them. Different ways that you can calm yourself down. But we also sort of went into the science of it, of what actually calms you down about it, and really just any sort of rhythm and large amount of air passing through helps. And so what I found, this was really useful in my exam period actually, is doing static breath holds was actually even better than any other kind of box breathing or anything. Just holding my breath for a minute would actually calm me down.
So hypoxia or hypercapnia or something else?
I don't know what it's called. I don't. As I said, done freediving course.
Hypoxia is low blood oxygen, which tends to happen well after 1 minute. But hypercapnia is something that is elevated CO2, which starts happening, for untrained people very quickly. Like at the end of 1 minute, most people that are untrained would be experiencing significant levels of elevated CO2 that would give them a strong urge to breathe.
Yeah. I don't know what it was actually.
Okay. Well, anytime you're doing any breath work, it starts to give you, you start to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Which gets you out of that brain heavy stuff and actually ties you back into your body, which is why I was talking earlier about how we're these tripart beings, like being engaged and connected in the moment in nature is part of it. But then the other part of it is connecting with yourself on a deeper level, which is like, because we're so brain heavy, we're all thinking our thoughts all the time. We're not actually thinking what's actually going on inside my body right now. And like just simply getting out of your head and into your body, like that's one of the things with breath work I think that's helped me. So, So it sounds like
absolutely.
So it sounds like static was doing that for you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I am. Really not dynamic breath holds. Because I just couldn't, like I just immediately get lung contractions. Okay, like if I was doing like apnea walks, that doesn't calm me down at all. I mean, it's a good breath hold training, but it's you get that CO2 reaction very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the static breath hold, I could just sort of sit upright in my chair, take a deep breath, hold it, and then go back to work. It's,
Okay.
That worked for me.
So was it bringing you out of your head and into your body when you were holding? Like, walk me through the.
Yeah. I guess that's a good way of putting it. Is it's a bit of mindfulness as well. Mindfulness is people often say mindfulness. People are like, oh, that's just some hippie thing.
Woo bullshit.
But it's really all mindfulness is putting your mind somewhere that isn't just your thoughts.
Yeah.
And actually addressing reality around you. And so that sort of, as you said, just focusing, I might have been focusing on taking the full breath. It meant really my thoughts were almost in my lungs. And that's where just
the sensations in your body, maybe. Yeah, this is what we start to teach this in freediving courses, so you're going to enjoy that when you do it. When you're back in Aussie, you'll have to come up to Brizzy and I'll put you in a course. I think you'll enjoy it. I think for me, I didn't discover mindfulness or breath work until I was in my late 20s and I was going for a marriage breakup. And then I did this Headspace. It was a 10-day challenge. Like it was free. You just did 10 days of like 10 or 12 minutes of this mindfulness activity. And I still didn't really like the term or anything like that, but I was dealing with such acute anxiety that for me it was massive. And I realized like how in my head I was and how out of my body. And if you're carrying around a high level of anxiety into your day, you're having conflict with people that's often unnecessary. Like spearfishing is a great way to it's a hack. It's like a hack to skip the apps because you get in the water and you're forced to do mindfulness in order to even do a breath hold dive. Right. Like you're forced to do it. That's for a tangible activity. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say to friends that have like anxiety or because everyone has it now. Friends that have that problem, but that aren't really in the outdoors and like, well, try freediving because it forces you to figure it out.
I asked you to send me some bullet points, and one of the things was talking about anxiety and depression. You've touched on something that's very personal to me. It's laughter as a life-saving tool, and I relate to this very similarly. My name, Isaac, actually means laughter, and for me, like laughing is like it's like a critical part of life. Laughing at myself, laughing at others, and when you're not doing it out of an awful place, I reckon it's actually quite liberating. Talk to me for you about what it means to you.
For me, that has several meanings. One is for a while I've been interested in sort of acting in that sort of comedic artistic space. I tried film acting. I enjoyed the acting side of it, but I just couldn't deal with the industry. But then this year I've tried stand-up comedy. Been going to open mic nights, and it's another one that helps with anxiety, because if you're stressed about just having like basic anxiety with like social interactions or anything, I can guarantee no social interaction you can have can turn out worse than bombing in front of 300 people. There's nothing. You can't have a worse conversation than that.
Yeah.
So it's like, regardless of whether you do well or bad, stand-up has always felt like it's boosted my confidence in the long term. Often you feel terrible after a bad performance, but that always feels good for me. The other one is just, I've found often Spearos, they just love taking the piss of each other and just having a particularly Aussie Spearos and Brits as well, just because it's part of our sense of humor, is just because we're dealing with we're killing stuff, that's heavy, but then coming back and just sort of just being unserious for a bit of time, that really helps. And you can see Spearos love that. I've lost count of the amount of pissette jokes that I heard at nationals, just non-stop.
Oh, yeah, it's almost like punching down. Pissette jokes would be so easy.
Yeah, they're not original.
Nah.
Not at all.
But yeah, that's partly why I like Spearos too. I don't have to be original. Like, they just, bear with me, grin and bear my terrible dad jokes. It's great. Yeah, that's cool. I think humor's a great device for, because I don't know, it just makes you take yourself a little less seriously. And again, like,
yes.
After I've done a little bit of it myself, and what I found was the energy that I took on to the stage, if you like, was often what translated more than anything else. My internal state manifested externally, but I didn't do as much of it as it sounds like you're doing, getting up there weekly. It sounds like masochism.
Yeah, it is a bit.
How long is set have you got now, just as an aside? How long?
I'm at like 7 minutes.
7 minutes is
good, not that much at all.
Nice.
But I haven't done this joke in a while, but because I have had this history of mental health problems, I like to joke about that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people say if you don't laugh, you cry. And I did a joke about teen anorexia, which is, and I went into that going like, right, they're either going to love this or they're going to hate it. But either way, it could be funny. And because I tell people like the concept of the joke, and like, good luck with that.
Love that.
But then I told this joke, and oh my God, it was one of the best reactions I've ever had to a joke.
Go, give it to us.
It's not going to work outside of.
You need to build up. You need context.
I can try it, but I can almost guarantee that it won't be very funny.
You can work your way into it later if you want. It's all good.
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I like to tell stories and then tell like 3 or 4 different stories with good, solid punchlines, and then weave them all into one compelling story that draws on all of the backstories, and then so the laughter sort of builds. But you've got to get those initial wins. You've got to get people laughing from the start. It's hard, man. Yeah. It's very intensive.
That's why opening is so hard, because you haven't the audience isn't warmed up. They're just like, because it's an open mic night. It's just at a pub, so half the people there are just there for a drink.
Yeah.
Like, what's this guy saying?
Yeah. What does he know?
Yeah.
He knows fuck all. Is that what they say? Spear Ready is a 50-day training program designed to get you in shape to make the most of your spearfishing. It's a 50-day cross-training program designed to put you in shape and not feel like you don't have any breath hold when you arrive on your trip. If you can go spearfishing during the week during this program, you can even subtract something from the workout. I can guarantee that no other prep program is saying that. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. There are always frothers training and trying to prepare and get in shape. It's a great way to stay motivated and do it together with our private Facebook group. Check it out again, noobspearo.com/spearready.
As soon as I say anything about freediving safety, I can hear the eye rolls from across the podcast. In fact, you're probably thinking, but Tad, I've never had a problem. I don't push myself. I'm in tune with my body. I know my limits. What is 100% true about that statement is you can always say that statement unless you died from a blackout. You've probably heard of someone in your local waters that died from a blackout, and they used to be able to say the same thing, and then they blacked out and they died, and they can no longer say that. That's the way that argument works. My name is Ted Hardy. I'm the founder of Immersion Freediving, and my goal is to do more to stop fatalities from shallow water blackout than any other person on the planet. I never liked the idea that the information on how to not kill yourself while spearfishing was gated behind the paywall of a freediving course. What if there's no instructor within 200 miles? What if you can't afford a course? What if you can't get time off work? So sad, too bad, you just don't get access to the information needed to dive safely? That's why I created freedivingsafety.com. It's a free course that will teach you how to reduce your risk of having a blackout and teach you how to save your buddy's life if they had a blackout. Dive safe out there. It's not even that hard, especially when you can learn for free at freedivingsafety.com.
Yeehaw! Welcome to Depth Charge Charters. It's not just functional and simple spear guns that you can rely on from Killshot. It's Depth Charge Charters as well, part of the Killshot family. These guys go out of their way to ensure you have a great time on the water. They focus in and around freedive spearfishing, but you can go lobster fishing, line diving on a freediving. You can do freediving classes and lessons, even up your spearing game with legendary instructions. Check it out at killshotspearguns.com. Okay, cool. So you got a Bonito record. Is that over there or in Australia?
I don't have it. I witnessed it.
Okay.
This was at the Dorset Opens in the UK. So my dive buddy was Christian Fingrini. Don't know if you know him, the Italian guy who spears in the UK, and he has a YouTube channel that's all in Italian, so I don't understand a word of it. It's good content nonetheless. But it was very interesting. I learned so much that day diving with Christian. We started on a spot that's quite dangerous. Daniel Mann put us on it, and we were driving up to it, and it was like, have you ever? I won't name the spot. It was like, Alex, have you ever dived this spot before? I was like, no. I was like, well, it's one of the most dangerous places to dive in the UK, but it's okay. I was like, oh, right. This is the third time diving in the UK. It's apparently one of the most dangerous spots. But it was very serious currents, so we had to. It was actually, I'll be honest, it was an awesome cliff entry into these quite strong currents. Then just using the slack tide to get a couple of hours in at that spot, and then after that, we changed spots to another spot that's quite well known actually in the area for just pulling up weird species. Because Bonito in the UK, you don't see them really. Like you might see one a year if you're good at diving a lot. So we would change the spot and we were targeting bass. We're diving on pretty much the same mark. I was going down seeing absolutely nothing. I come back up and he's got 2 bass already. I was like, right, this guy's taking the piss. And then do another dive, and then he comes back and he's holding something. Like, that's a weird looking bass. And he's like, Alex, I got a paramita. What is this, Alex? Paramita means bonito in Italian, and we just lost it because we knew what it was, but he just kept saying, "What is this?" Because you just don't see them. He was blown away. And he pulled this thing up, and then we got to the car park, and immediately he was texting Daniel Mann, Daniel Mann, whenever you put a fish in the LIC group chat, he's like, oh, check if that's a British record. No, not every fish, but if he sees a big fish, he's big into the records. He's like, oh yes, check, it might be a record. So he's like, oh yeah, it might be a British record. And we're like, oh, actually it might be. So we waited at the comp that night, and fair enough, it was a record. I think he's processing it now. I had to be his witness. And so,
That's
yeah, that was
super
awesome. I
cool.
put in the group chat, hey guys, a Bonito in, because no one had bothered to put down the score sheet because it was just in the other. And I was like, what the hell? Where did these guys get a Bonito?
That one unusual thing I've been seeing too on Instagram is all the tuna in
Yes.
the UK.
Well, I know you don't like getting political, but it's hard not to when you start talking about tuna in the UK.
Oh no.
But yeah, they're big numbers this year. Everyone's seeing them, which is awesome. And
is there theories about why they're seeing them? Like,
I don't know. Like, might be warmer waters. It might be the fact that there's been a lot of pressure taken off in fishing them. That we're not allowed to spear them. The commercial fishing on them has been quite light, I think, in the channel anyway. One thing we've found that weird though has been very few flatfish seen on the south coast.
okay.
Which, I mean, I don't know a lot about flatfish or tuna, but there could be some sort of correlation there. I don't know. I'm not a marine biologist. There's definitely been a weird year for sightings and fish in the UK.
Yeah, interesting. We're seeing changes everywhere. I think, salinity changes in different parts of the world, and then obviously ocean temps, and there's a whole bunch of stuff to it. It'd be interesting to talk about some marine scientists that weren't captured by too much ideological bias. You mentioned bias earlier.
Yes,
it's a pet hate of mine. Bias. It's good to be caught out with your own cognitive bias, but marine scientists, there's some really good ones, and it'd be nice to talk to someone who just has thought about and looked at and analysed some of the research about some of these differing factors that we're seeing and witnessing, and all of the changes that come along with it. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Awesome witness to that Bonito record. That would have been phenomenal. What did you learn from that?
That was crazy.
What was the biggest thing you learned? Biggest takeaway diving with a guy like that?
Just the importance of patience, actually, because that's really when you're using these very ambushy techniques. You're really just going down onto the down current side of the rock, waiting, creeping around, and sort of, because they're probably usually come up on the upside current side, and so creeping around and just patient, waiting for them to come in. And I have not nailed it. Patience is one of my big problems that I need to work on, just in spearfishing and in life. And it showed, because and it's also just in how you're actually presenting yourself to the fish, like the energy that you're putting out. If you're really calm, patient, no worries, come in, whatever you want. If that's the energy you're giving to the fish, they're going to come in. If you're going in with this sort of very predator mindset, that shows in your body language. So I think we were doing the same length breath holds. We were both doing about a minute on the breath hold overall, but I wasn't even seeing any bass, but he was pulling up whole schools.
Dramatically different results. That's a pretty cool illustration of that. I like that. Yeah, it's hard to. One of the beautiful things about spearfishing is that juxtaposition between having that high level of anticipation, which you in some ways need to make sure that your gun's pointed in the right direction, you're ready to actually pull the trigger, or the opposite, which is like you're completely blasé and you're underprepared when you finally do get to see a fish. It's kind of like, so how do you still have anticipation but hide it in your body language? It's really weird and hard thing to do, I think. It involves a lot of self-control and experience. I still do it wrong all the time.
I think it was Primal Pursuit said this, that spearfishing is a lot like dating. If you're really desperate, everyone can tell, and so you're not going to get anything. But if you relax, that's when you get the girls, the fish rather.
Yeah. There's that other one too, when it rains it pours, which is a good analogy. I like that. That's good, Alex. That's a very cool one to remember.
That's not mine. I'm not going to pretend that's mine. That's you had him on the podcast. What's his name? Ollie Craig, I think it is.
Yeah, righto. Yeah, he's a good unit. I like him.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ollie. He's got some wicked trips too. He's running out of the Solomons. He's got that place. He's starting to get it really dialed.
Yeah, those look sick.
Yeah.
I've seen all those spearfishing trips. Yours look awesome.
Yeah.
Unless there's some sort of team member discount that I don't know about, it's going to be challenging for me.
We'll see what we can do for you, Alex. Yeah, especially on the course front too. It'd be actually cool to get you involved. Britain culture and spearfishing. What is the difference between British spearfishing and Australian spearfishing apart from the conditions?
The size is the big difference. So I think if someone said to me, they absolutely just pulled this out of their ass, but it actually is almost not true. That there's probably the same amount of comp divers in Australia as there are total spearos in the UK. I don't think that's true. There's probably a couple more spearos in the UK because not a lot of people dive comps in Australia, but it's a much higher percentage dive comps in the UK.
Why?
Just because, because there's such a level of skill that you need to dive here. Like if you don't have anyone showing you what you're doing, you could spend years and not even see a fish.
Yeah, wow.
And so you need to get it sort of injected into the spearfishing world. You just kind of need to be part of a club, and clubs love comps, and so that's a big part of it. But that's the big deal is you say spearfishing in Australia, and people have a broad understanding of what it is. Like they might have seen a spear gun before, and you still get you're chasing the fish with a javelin, right?
Yeah.
Still get those people in Australia, but here it's like people have never heard of spearfishing, and if they have no idea that you can actually do it in the UK. Like I said to my boss because I was off for a week, for a weekend to go to the nationals. Like, I was at the national comp. She was like, "What's spearfishing? Like, surely you can't do that in this country." I'm like, no, yeah, it's quite big. Well, it's not big, but it's a very vibrant, lively community.
Yeah. Isn't it weird how like the spearing world is so like it's so easy if you're a shit person, like everyone knows almost instantly.
Yeah.
Because the world is so small. And as soon as you like rip one person off, like there's very little forgiveness too. Like you build your reputation with one act. You know what I mean? Like it takes years to build a good reputation. It takes one moment to ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The UK scene's pretty cool. I love that the Spearo Hangout podcast. Those guys are doing pretty cool things. Yeah. And they're such a cool bunch of characters too. Yeah. I'm glad that they have that going over there. It's because it's a unique culture. Wherever you are, like in the world, like spearing is done differently. You know what I mean? Like the culture around it is different. The seafood that you prepare is different. Hunting techniques are different. Like the way people mix with each other. Like I was in the southwestern corner of Australia, and because of surfing culture, I think it's kind of made them very anti formal community type things like clubs. They seem very isolated pockets. They still have their little like tribes, but they're like very isolated, and the attitude towards comp seems to be very different. And it's just funny to sort of notice. And when you're around people, you do start to notice the differences, which is good. And I mean, in some ways, like it sounds like the British community is good because of this. Everyone's in a club. Like it does sound like. I don't know.
I mean, not everyone. There's plenty of people that seem to get by with just Facebook groups, but definitely everyone that's catching good fish seems to be in the club. But
talk to me about sailing the south coast of England with pensioners.
Yeah, that's how I labelled it, wasn't it? So this was a tough decision I had to make. There was through the Cambridge Climbing Club, I met a bloke who had a sailing yacht, and he was doing sort of back and forth along the south coast. And I could either do a week on that or go to the LIC Pairs Comp. Now, I'm still not sure that I made the right decision, but I chose to go sailing for a week. And I rock up, and it was two blokes, I think in their late 60s. And it was definitely a very interesting experience. We sailed this little 37-foot yacht from, what was it? I think Portsmouth to past London.
Okay.
Which was really interesting. I brought all my spearfishing gear and didn't get to use it once, which I think it has more to do with having a skipper that has no idea what spearfishing is.
Yeah.
Because there are spots along that stretch where I could actually have gone spearing, but when you have someone who just doesn't know how it works, it doesn't really work.
Yes.
It was also, and sailing is just, I don't know if I could really get into sailing for just the point of sailing, but as a way of getting to destinations for trips like just camping or spearfishing, it's so good. I mean, just, particularly when you're doing like night sailing, that was awesome. We did that. We were just cruising at like 7 knots, tilted over like 15, 20 degrees, pitch black. I think I almost ran us aground. I saw the sounder go up to 0.3 below the keel meters. I was like, nice. We're in a pickle now.
Yeah.
But
navigation is a bit of a hazard at night time for sure. Yeah, man, I love sailing too. I can relate to that. Like, it's something cool about being under full sail. You know, you're not doing super fast. Like 8 or 10 knots is amazing. Like, feels so fast, and it's special, and it's quiet.
We were not doing 8 or 10 knots, but we were. But even so, it when you're keeling over, it feels a lot quicker.
Yeah. No, I love it. And did you call it the high side and the suicide? Did they refer to that?
No.
Captain Crispy, who takes us out on the Whitsundays pro sail trips, he says, like, he's got a briefing, like a safety briefing when you get on board the boat that is second to none. It's like a comedy routine. It's like 15 minutes of this ad-lib comedy, and he's got all these weird idioms and crazy sayings, and he's like, so when we're sailing and we're right over on the side, we have the high side where you'll be, or the suicide, where you get swept away, and like, you just all of these funny stuff. Like when he's talking about how to use the toilet on the boat, and who's cleaning it if it does get jammed up with stuff, and he's just like hilarious. Like from like, you just sit back and you're proper belly laughing. He's great to watch. Best safety briefing in the world. So how many safety briefings are there? Like, I almost feel like any person that is tasked with delivering a safety briefing should make it funny, mandatory. If there's not a couple of good laughs in it, no one's listening. No one gives a shit.
Absolutely. That's something I've always tried to do if I'm giving a present, like when I was in school giving presentations, or just if I'm ever giving a presentation, I try to make it interesting, because I know there's probably a large percentage of the people that don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So you might as well make it worth their time and make it funny.
I was just thinking, I had a mate who got married. I had to do a speech for him, and I just went to town on him. Like, one of the most memorable jabs was talking about his alien ant farm ankle tattoo. Like, how many jokes can you make out of that single shit tattoo? I think I must have made 4 or 5. It was excellent.
That's great.
Yeah. But that's what you do, when you got mates. So,
yeah.
Sometimes with weather and commitments, it's a long time between drinks in your spearfishing journey. If you want a dry training program that can keep you in some kind of shape for spearfishing, check out Ted Hardy's 28-day freediving transformation at noobspearo.com/Ted. That's noobspearo.com/Ted. Now, the 28-day freediving transformation is just a practical dry training plan that Ted Hardy will walk you through, and it will help you get results even if you can't get wet at the moment. Check it out at noobspearo.com/Ted. Massive thanks to today's sponsor, Dog and Gun Coffee. It's bloody good coffee, ready for adventure. They use specialty grade beans and roasted fresh in Brisbane by a small Aussie team. Their most popular product, and this is one that I love myself, are the preloaded drip filters, which allow you to have cafe quality coffee anywhere. And I use them out on my Stratty spearfishing adventures. It is legit cafe quality coffee that you can make with simple boiling water, add your own milk and sugar. Well, that's what I do anyway. Their owners, Sean and Rach, are keen hunters in and out of the water and want to encourage more people to get outdoors. That's pretty much the vision of Dog and Gun Coffee. Check it out at dogandguncoffee.com.au. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10%. Can't get better than that. Go to dogandguncoffee.com.au. Again, hey, I like the Sandbar Dark Roast as well. Check that out at Dog and Gun Coffee. Where to from here? What do you want to do with spearfishing?
A lot of it. Really want to get into the comp scene in Australia. That would be so cool. Want to see more of it. I'm going to be spearing. Well, spearing's going to be tricky because next year, and then for the years onwards, I'm going to be at ANU in Canberra.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know why I chose the only landlocked state as a passionate Spearo to go to uni. But
you've got the south coast of New South Wales, like just there. There's heaps of cool spearing there.
Oh, it's like still 3 hours.
Yeah,
still
right.
a 3-hour drive, but
Right.
I mean, I can do it. There's Jervis Bay is pretty much directly east.
Yep.
And so, and then there's the south coast below that. That's even nicer. So weekend off camping, could do it. But
cool.
Be rough.
And for the meantime,
in fairness, it's not further than I've had to drive to go spearfishing here.
Mm-mm.
Like it's been at least 5 hours for decent spearing driving.
Cool.
So it's gonna be better.
Let's do Spearo Q&A, our faster paced round of questions. And I might ask one more philosophical question of you. Is that all good?
Yeah, sounds good.
What is the single best piece of advice you've ever been given for spearfishing? Don't
go again. Take it slow. And that, literally, you ask anyone, like, what's their tip on spearfishing? Just relax. And that's because the whole thing falls apart if you're not relaxed. So you just really just have to take it slow.
Okay. All right. Given that tip, if you had to start all over again, what would you do differently?
Join a club as soon as possible. Or just find anyone, just ask, and not be afraid to ask people, hey, how do I be better at this? Mate, at the shop, just ask far away. There's guys, spearfishing shops, particularly in the UK, don't see a lot of traffic, so they have the time. Just far away.
Nice. What current challenge are you working on in your spearfishing, and what are you doing about it?
That's a tricky one. Well, not being near the fish actually is the biggest problem. I would say like anxiety and stress, but honestly, you can't catch fish. You can catch fish when you're stressed. You can't catch them if there's no fish. So getting back to somewhere where there is fish is actually the biggest problem that I'm dealing with, and that's just moving back to Sydney and going back. But actually, a better answer would be finding just getting to know your area. Because if I had longer, I'm sure I could find better ways of optimizing my travel and spearing here from Cambridge. But you just find like knowing my area and myself and the fish, and just learning of what's where is what I'm having to learn at the moment. Yeah,
cool. By moving around a bit and having to learn all these different areas, you are going to definitely build a skill set with how to do that faster for sure. I think joining a club's a great hack, and finding some local mentors and ingratiating yourself to them so that they, have that reciprocal sort of, do you know what I mean? Like they just help you out. So dream spearfishing destination.
That's tricky. Whitsundays looks awesome. Any of the Pacific Islands look awesome. I mean, I haven't shot the kingy is the next fish on my good fish on my list. But if I see a dogtooth tuna in front of me one day, it's going to be hard to resist. So that's one day to dive one of those spots with just big pelagic hunting would be awesome.
Nice.
French Bonito as well.
You got a few. That's good. Last question. Can you describe what the spearfishing experience means to you in one sentence?
No. I can't, but I can try. And it's to be honest, it's just reconnection. As I said earlier, we talk about rewilding nature and our planet, rewilding humans, rewilding myself. That's what it's all about for me.
That sounds like a good bit of a worthy purpose there too, Alex. Rewilding yourself and rewilding others. Love it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're going to be a spearfishing instructor one day.
I hope so.
Yeah, cool.
Because archaeology does not have a lot of money. That might be the move.
Do you know why the field of archaeology is 95% women?
Oh, I suspect I know what you're going to say there, but I won't mess up your joke. Go for it.
Because women love digging up old shit all the time.
There you go.
It was something like
figured it
that. Anyway,
out.
I butchered the
I
joke.
figured it out as you were saying. It's like, there it is.
I saw it like
Yeah.
it was like one of those Facebook memes I saw ages ago. Did you want to deliver your anorexia joke or?
No, absolutely not. If you want to see that, come to. It might end up on my Instagram one day. But
where's your Cambridge stand-up if people are in the area?
Hank's Dirty, Hank's Cambridge. So, Talking Dirty is the name of the night, and they have an Instagram page. And if you're one of those free Spearos that live in the entirety of East Anglia, come watch me do stand-up every Thursday.
Nice.
It's join in yourself. It's a lot of fun.
How can people get hold of you, Alex, apart from directly through the Noob Spearo Instagram at the moment?
Yeah, you can go through the Noob Spearo Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Actual proper Instagram, Smith's the Frog. There's also Frog and Troll Extreme is a joint page that me and my mate have that we're going to try and make a bit focus on probably next year, that we'll be back in the same country together, spearfishing together. Obviously that'll be linked up in the show notes. But yeah, Smithers _the frog.
Okay.
Well, you get the idea.
Nice. And any final call to the spearing community, Alex? Anything, any bit of wisdom or anything you'd like to share?
Get involved with your clubs. I know they can be political and they can be a pain in the ass, but also like we need governing body. Like the BSA here is just awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I know Anthony, who's the chairman, but it just, connecting with, like, I see so many people on Facebook whinging about, they're putting this new law in or these new boating fees. It's like, if you're not bothering to be part of the change or to involve yourself with it at all, then, how can you complain when a choice is made against? I think, we need to stick together on when these legislations are made, and these clubs and these organizations are our best chance in defining the fisheries regulations for the future.
Love it. Yeah. Gives us a seat at the table for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, Alex, mate. Pleasure to have you on the podcast and share a little bit about your journey. I've loved touching on so many good points about anxiety and reconnecting with ourselves and nature, and comedy as a bit of a device for letting it all go as well. It's been awesome, man. You got a wise head on a young set of shoulders. So well done, and I hope you keep persevering in the spearing life and stay safe and shoot heaps more memorable fish.
Yeah, cheers, Shrek.
Unfortunately, guys, I forgot to ask my famous funny story question. Alex, fire away with your funny story.
Well, I know you're partial to a good poo story, Shrek. So I've one from that also ties into the Bonito record, which is that at the Dorset Opens, I don't know, I must have eaten something the night before because my bowels were not in a good state. And it was one of those where, not to get too graphic, but it was like, you're not sure if it's a fart or a poo, but you definitely don't remember
eating that.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was actually to the point where as I was diving, I could feel like gas in my bowels being compressed and decompressed. So I was like, right, I've got to get this out. But the problem is we were already sort of a couple of 100 meters out, but in sight of a public beach. So I couldn't really swim in and figure something out on the rocks. I had to just do an aqua bog, a proper aqua bog.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm never going back to the Long John sort of type straps for the bottom half of your wetsuit. Cut those off, guys. You never know when you might need to pull one of these. So I did this aqua bog. The form is tricky to learn. I ended up pretty much swimming through a cloud of my own poo. And then I reckon about 5 minutes later, Christian comes up with the British record for Bonito.
Correlation or causation?
Well, that's what we were saying. Is there's a non-zero chance that my poo provided the burley that brought in
the Bonito
record. Bonito.
Nice.
And
there's nothing like learning how to sort of fin away from your own poo, with your wetsuit down around your knees. Like it's that's an art. Yeah, I feel you.
Not an easy skill to learn.
No,
and not when you can get someone to teach you either.
Yeah. Did you hear Sam Mumford with the Cornish sea turtle?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's a weird one. But
Oh, it was so good. Such a good picture.
yeah.
No, I love it. That was a good post story, Alex. I
Yeah.
thought for a little while I was a bit worried because you were talking about anorexic people before. I thought anorexic people they don't even poo, they vomit everything up. Nah, thanks, bro. Thanks for coming back and
right
sharing
on.
that funny story with us.
No worries.
Well. Alex Smyth, what an absolute legend. Great, wise head on his shoulders for such a young man. Really enjoyed chatting with him. It's been super cool having him as part of the Noob Spearo team running our Instagram. I hope you enjoyed today's show and reflected some of those values that Alex talked about, like getting young people into the natural world as early as possible, building confidence and skills for the future. Hey, next week's going to be a really special episode. It's Shark Shield Reborn with Ed Martin from Killshot Spear Guns. Ed and his team have bought this awesome thing, Ocean Guardian. It went into liquidation earlier this year. Ed and some investors have bought it, and it's about to be reborn. I got on the horn with them, and I got a whole bunch of questions from the Noob Spearo community, and we get right into it. So see you next week or in 2 weeks' time for Shark Shield Reborn. Hey, if you are loving the podcast and you want to support it on another level up, go to patreon.com/Noob Spearo, and thank you for putting fuel in the Noob Spearo outboard to the 40-odd legends, doing it on an episode-by-episode basis. Super appreciate it, guys. All good, that's it for me. Shrek, over and out. Arriving on day one of the spearfishing trip of a lifetime and feeling underdone, unfit, and out of breath is incredibly underwhelming. Well, I've got a great solution for you today. Go to noobspearo.com/spearready and take part in a 50-day preparation program to get you into shape to make the most of a trip of a lifetime. This is a 50-day journey designed to get you in great shape to make the most of this trip. I consulted a bunch of legends to help me put together this program, including Adam Stern, Australian freediving legend, Jared Rosenberg from Earth and Ocean Fit, and Dr. Jaap Verbaas, author of Longer and Deeper, as well as a bunch of others to help me put together a 50-day program that will get you results. And I know it works. We've put a bunch of groups through this now, and people have seen huge improvements and landed on a charter or a trip and actually been able to tap into some of their best spearfishing fitness. Check it out at noobspearo.com/spearready. Jump in a 50-day program to make the most. If you are 2 months out from that trip of a lifetime, let me encourage you, get spear ready. Go to noobspearo.com/spearready. Are you US based, looking for freediving, spearfishing gear? Neptonics is the best. Their online website's so easy to use. If you've got any questions, Jerry and the team answer questions via phone, email. Anyway, they've got an easy contact form on the site. These guys are absolute legends, and if they sell it, they believe in it, they back it, they use it themselves. It's tough gear that works. Visit neptonics.com. Use the code NOOB10 to save 10% on any order at neptonics.com. That's right, use the code NOOB10, NOOB10 on your next order. Save 10% at neptonics.com. Today's Noob Spearo podcast is brought to you in partnership with Adreno. Live it, breathe it with the world's largest dive store. Huge range of equipment, always growing, always changing. They are the world's largest dive store. They are available just about everywhere. They have hassle-free returns, massive range of equipment, price match guarantee, and you can check them out online. You can even use the code Noob Spearo to save $20 on every purchase over $200 at adreno.com.au. Check them out. Boom.